Basically see two drives in dog training when I'm working with dogs on the ground for the most part. This thing gets really contorted on the internet and discussion groups and so forth. That's all interesting, but when we have a dog in front of us, some of that stuff really doesn't, it doesn't apply. It's not relevant. So when we strip it all away, what we're basically dealing with, in my opinion and in my perspective, we have prey drive and we have fight drive. Of course, there are many shades of gray in between there, but those are the two fundamental things we're working with when we're working with working dogs. It's a fight drive and a prey drive, and the shades of gray in between there. I think more important than understanding the two drives is being able to recognize one and the other, and to see where the fight drive actually begins and takes over from the prey drive. I think that shift is probably more important to be able to realize than it is to be able to see anything else. Is to be able to see when the dog begins to move from one drive to another. Fancy dog talk, I think they call that drive channeling. I just want to be able to see when the dog begins to shift from a more play and prey type of a mode into a more serious and defensive mode. I don't want to have a dog that's in a defensive mode that I'm trying to work with and teach. Oftentimes when a dog begins to slide off into a more serious fight drive, he's much more difficult to work with, and at some point he'll more than likely completely blank out. So the difference between prey drive and fight drive are really pretty distinctive once you begin to see it and you study it and you begin to absorb what it actually looks and feels like. So I think as far as drives and the discussion of drives, probably the most important thing for us to grasp is to be able to determine when the dog moves from a prey state into a more fight-driven state. And not focus so much on the label, fight drive, this drive, and the other drive, but just observe the dog and let's observe what we're seeing. And when we see the dog shift from a prey play state into a more serious fight-driven state, be able to recognize that and throttle back into the prey state again. This being able to move back and forth is a key to training a dog once we get into an upper level. So the drives are complex on the one hand, but they're very simple on the other hand. They're just genetic drives that every dog has, and some dogs have more than others of the various types of drives and the various subsets within them. But for all intents and purposes, we really only have two drives we're working with as dog trainers, prey drive and fight drive. I love them both. They both have their place in the training for the 99 percentile of us, prey drive. But don't put your dog in a state of fight drive, not when you're on the other end of it. Advice about drives and dog training. It's great to work your dog in a state of play and prey drive. I do it all the time. You see me doing it on the videos. I don't, however, suggest you work a big dog, especially a grown dog, in a state of fight drive. Let's get a professional decoy to do that. That's my bit of advice insofar as drives and working your own dog. Keep your eye on the dog. If you see the dog begin to slide over into that fight drive state, let's intensify the movement, bring him back down into a prey state, and keep him in the work. When we get ready to fight and bite, we'll bring in a professional decoy, and that's when we get to really bring the iron to the iron. But until then, stay in that play or prey state, man. That's the way you got to do it when it's your own dog.
Mastery requires a lifetime. But that doesn't mean you can't get control of your dog today.